right. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today for our Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Program webinar. Before we begin, I just wanted to share a few housekeeping details with you. Just so you know, all webinar participants have been placed on mute. We ask that you please try to hold your questions until the end of the webinar. The presentation itself will address many of the questions that you have, and at the end of the webinar, we'll have a question and answer session, so please submit your questions at that time. And these PowerPoint slides with notes will be available on the California Department of Education, or CDE, LCRS grant program webpage at https://www.cde.ca.gov/ps/LCRS program.asp. And now I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Cheryl Cotton to officially welcome you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So glad you've joined us today. My name is Cheryl Cotton. I'm Deputy Superintendent of our Instruction, Measurement, and Administration branch here at the California Department of Education. So glad that you have joined us. I want to walk through our agenda for today. We will start with opening remarks. Well, actually, we will have remarks from our superintendent. When he's able to join, he will jump in and welcome you all. We will also go over the LCRS program itself. We will talk through the allocations and the apportionments. We will also talk through the allowed expenditures, how you can use these funds to support this grant program. We'll get into our reporting requirements, and then we'll talk a little bit more about our literacy coaches and reading specialist educator training. We'll hear from our lead from Sacramento County Office of Education. And then we'll move into our next steps, our resources, and then we'll have time for question and answer at the end, as Jennifer suggested, and then we will close. So getting started, we're going to start with a quick poll. We'd like to know who's joining us today. So Julia, if you can take that away.
Thanks. I'm Julia Agostinelli. I am the administrator of the Professional Learning Innovations Office. Welcome, everyone. So today we're using Poll Everywhere to solicit some information from you all. And you can use the URL on the screen to respond. And we'll also put that into the chat for you as well. Looks like Havana's already gotten that in there. Or you can text the message eEquity732 to the phone number 22333. Once you start that text chain, you'll be able to respond to this question and the subsequent questions. So I will move us over now to the poll and see who's in the room. All right, so those polls are coming in. Folks are still responding. So we'll give it just another few moments to let people put the URL into their webpage or respond via text message. And you can see on the screen, there's also a QR code that you can use with your phone. All right, and it looks like we've got folks still joining us today, so that's great. So we are asking, what is your role at your local educational agency? So right now we have 8% superintendent, 4% chief academic officer, 32% district/charter staff, up to 35 now, 10% principal, 3% teacher, 1% reading specialist, which we're hoping to change as this funding continues, 6% literacy coach, and 32% other. So thanks for responding to that poll. Again, I'll leave that open for a little bit so you can respond if you didn't get a chance to. And we'll continue using this poll everywhere for a few more questions as we continue, but I will turn it over to Cheryl now.
Thank you, Julia. And it really does help us to know who's on the call. And again, we encourage you to share this information out as widely as you can. This is being recorded and should land on our website relatively soon. And so, teachers, parents, whomever may have an interest in this work, we strongly encourage them to take a look at it. Join us and let us know if you have any questions. So I do want to talk about our state superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurman, his vision for this program. His vision is to establish a community, a partnership between you and us here at the CDE, and our supports throughout the state, including our county office lead. We're all committed to improving literacy outcomes for our students. We all want to see them. We know how important reading by third grade is. We know the implications that some students may have if they're not reading by third grade. And we want to make sure that we are mitigating these challenges for our students, every student in California. And so that is our goal, and that is our superintendent's vision for this work. The funding that you've received continues the Literacy Coaches Reading Specialists Grant Program. The first cohort was funded in January of 2023. There were $225 million allocated to sites, sites receiving a minimum of $450,000, but increased based on the number of students enrolled. There were 124 local education agencies were represented within that grant program, and it really focused on 376 school sites. So again, continuing that goal of students reading by third grade, you will be a part of expanding this cohort of schools and districts that are focused on working with our lead agency, Sacramento County Office of Education, on the literacy coaches and reading specialist education portion of this program. So we hope you're able to forge those connections with each other and learn from other districts and sites across the state. There's lots to be learned. There's lots of bright spots. And we want to build on our knowledge and share that with each other. At this time, I would be introducing our superintendent. I don't believe he has joined us just yet. When he does join us, I'll unmute and let the group know that we're ready for our superintendent to welcome you all. He definitely wants to be here with us today. But in that case, we can go ahead to slide 8, Jennifer, and we'll continue on. Thank you.
Sure. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us again today. We have such a great turnout, so I'm really excited that everyone was able to take time out of their busy schedules and join us. This particular technical assistance webinar is provided by us at the Professional Learning Support Division, or the PLSD, at the CDE. And my name is Jennifer Howarder, and I'm an Education Programs Consultant in the Professional Learning Innovations Office. So our state superintendent of public instruction has pledged to support local educational agencies across California to ensure that all California students can read by the third grade by 2026. And the LCRS grant program is a really important part of that work. Having the support of literacy coaches and reading specialists in schools helps all students make gains in literacy, especially those students struggling to read. So we would like to pause again for another poll question. We want to know how many of you have heard of the superintendent's goal of all students learning to read by third grade by 2026. So here's our next poll question, and I'll let you jump in here, Julia.
Okay, I'm going to go out to the poll now, and fear not, the directions are on the poll as well. So let me share my screen. So for those of you that just joined us, we're using Poll Everywhere. You can use the URL in the chat or up on the screen here, pollev.com/eequity732. Or you can use the QR code for your cell phones to bring up the text message. So many ways to enter into this poll here. So it looks like folks are still entering responses to the question, how familiar are you with the state superintendent public instruction's goal for all California students to be reading by third grade by 2026? Okay, it looks like things are slowing down here. And again, I will keep this poll open beyond our time here. So you'll have another couple of minutes to enter in results if you haven't done so already. But we have 31% of folks saying very familiar, 45% saying somewhat familiar, 12% not very familiar, and 13% not familiar. So we'll try to turn those numbers around as well as we continue. So again, I'm going to keep that open, but I will stop sharing my screen so we can go back to our presentation.
So, to further support our state superintendent and his goal, the CDE is supporting literacy in a variety of other programs as well. So, we have, of course, this program, the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialist Grant Program. We also have the Early Literacy Support Block Grants, the Reading Instruction and Intervention Grants, the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant, as well as our Comprehensive State Literacy Plan, and the Educator Workforce Investment Grants, both for the English Learner Roadmap and special education. And then we also have our California Dyslexia Initiative. Note that links to resources from each of these programs, as well as many other resources, will be shared in an email after this webinar, so keep an eye out for that. We encourage you to build upon the great work that is already happening across the state with all of these great programs. And if you would like more information about the Superintendent's Literacy Initiative, you can visit https://www.cde.ca.gov/nr/YR21/rel67.asp. So now let's go ahead and go into an overview of our LCRS program. Senate Bill 114, Section 104 of Chapter 48, 2023, authorizes the second allocation of the LCRS program. The sum of $250 million was appropriated from the general fund to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction for the LCRS program. Of the total funding, the SSPI allocated $248 million to eligible school sites to develop school literacy programs, employ and train literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, and develop and implement interventions for students in need of targeted literacy support. Funds were allocated based on an eligible site's enrollment in kindergarten or any of grades 1 to 3 or K through 3 inclusive, so that no local educational agency or LEA shall receive less than $450,000 per eligible school sites. Grant amounts were determined using 2022-23 school enrollment data determined as of the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System Fall 1 certification. Funds may be expended through the 2028 fiscal year, and any funds not encumbered by June 30th of 2028 must be returned to the CDE. Of the funds appropriated for both the first and the second allocations, a total of $27 million was available for the SSPI in collaboration with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or the CTC, and subject to the approval of the Executive Director of the State Board of Education to select a County Office of Education, or COE, through a competitive process to develop and provide training for educators to become literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists. So as mentioned, our county office lead is the Sacramento County Office of Education, and they will be discussing the opportunities and supports they can offer you later on in our presentation. And now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Julie for her to go over some specifics regarding allocations and apportionments.
Thanks, Jennifer. So good afternoon. I'm Julie Klein-Briggs with the Categorical Allocations and Audit Resolution, or CAR office, here at CDE's School Fiscal Services Division. Our office has responsibility for the allocation and apportionment of funds for the LCRS program. So today I'm going to talk briefly to some of the fiscal details. Some are from the statute that Jen just mentioned a moment ago. First, for the eligible entities. So the statute, as Jen mentioned, identifies eligible entities as elementary school sites that are operated by a school district or a county office of education. An eligible school site can also be a charter school. So Also in the statute for the 23-24 program, it does exclude anybody that received funds from last year from the 22-23 program. So a school site must have an unduplicated pupil percentage of 95% or greater for kindergarten and grades 1 through 3. So the percentage is determined using the 22-23 CalPATS data for pupils eligible for free or reduced price meals, those that are English language learners, and youth in foster care. And it's a separate calculation for grades K through 3 only and does not include any data for additional grade levels served at the school site. So this program is formula driven and there's no application required in order to receive the funds. The funding formula requires, requires an equal amount per pupil in grades K through 3 and also establishes the minimum funding level of $450,000 per eligible school site. And while there's no application required to receive the funds, LEAs did have an opportunity to opt out of program participation and funding by September 30th using the online opt-out form. Funds for any non-participants or those that have declined funds will be reallocated to other participating school sites. So this means that the per pupil amount that was identified in the estimated allocation will increase slightly for other participants, and the same minimum funding level will apply. So next slide, please. Okay, so the amount we calculate for each eligible school site is referred to as the allocation. In August, we posted a schedule of estimated allocations for all eligible school sites.
Estimated allocations can be found on the fiscal webpage at https://www.cde.ca.gov/fg/FO/litcoaches23result.asp.
Our office will plan to post final allocations in about January of 2024, and that will reflect the reallocation of funds from any non-participants. The apportionment or payment is also planned for January 2024 and will reflect 100% of the calculated allocation. Regarding funding availability, as noted earlier, the funds will be available for encumbrance through June 30th, 2028. And for accounting purposes, LEAs will use SACS resource code 6211. And lastly, our fiscal resources such as funding results, frequently asked questions, and links to the statute are available on our fiscal webpage noted on this slide. And the URL for this page is https://www.cde.ca.gov/fg/aa/literacycoaches.asp. And questions regarding the calculation or apportionment of funds may be directed to our office at caar@cde.ca.gov. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. So just in summary, we have 250 million total for this particular allocation. 248 million went to eligible sites with a minimum of 450,000 per sites. 27 million is available to our LCRS ET lead, which again is the Sacramento County Office of Education, and funds must be encumbered by June 30th of 2028. So let's go ahead and move into our allowable uses of funds. LCRS funds can be used for developing school literacy programs, employing and training literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists, and developing and implementing interventions for students in need of targeted literacy support. The authorizing statute provides additional information on expenditures for school literacy programs. This includes developing a school literacy plan that includes goals and actions to improve literacy acquisition for pupils in preschool, if applicable, and kindergarten or any of grades 1 through 3 inclusive. The plan shall identify metrics to measure progress toward the goals and actions. And hiring at least one literacy coach or reading and literacy specialist per school to support educators and pupils in improving literacy instruction and pupil outcomes. Note that funds shall not be used to support the salaries of existing literacy coaches and reading specialists. So let's go ahead and pause here. Hiring a literacy coach or reading specialist is a major use of these funds. So we would like to know how many of you are planning to hire a literacy coach or reading specialist. So we have another poll for you, and I'll turn it over to Julia.
So A is yes, we will hire at least one literacy coach. B, yes, we will hire at least one reading specialist. C, we'll hire both. And D, we are not planning to at this time because we already employ one or the other. Okay, so again, I will leave these open if you haven't had a moment, but we'll go ahead and read results. And so looks like 42% of you are planning to hire at least one literacy coach, 16% planning to hire at least one reading specialist, 9% of you are planning to hire both, 22% are not planning to at this time because you already employ one or the other, and 11% of you are not sure yet. So thank you so much for completing that. Again, I'll leave that open for another few minutes.
And then we have another question that we would like you to move through. Our next question is, if you plan to hire a reading specialist and or literacy coach, when do you anticipate starting your recruitment process?
Okay, results are coming in, already did, March 2023. Not applicable, April, spring 2024, February, next few months. So it's sounding like late winter, early spring for many of you, fall 2024. All right, postings are already up and due in January. Already did, great, not sure. Right, so someone reported hiring someone last year or at the start of the school year and or near the end of the school year, spring 2024. One person reported having hired two for the sites who received last year's funding and this year for 2024 for this year's funding as soon as possible. February 2023, another spring or fall, March, possibly spring 2024. All right, lots of spring responses. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of my screen share. Again, please continue to put those responses in.
Okay, and we have one more question before we move into another topic. So this one, last one on literacy coaches or specialists, what barriers, if any, do you anticipate having in hiring a literacy coach and or a reading specialist?
You've got responses coming in here, teacher shortages, qualified applicants, availability of qualified individuals, challenges filling vacancies. All right, lots of similar answers here. Qualified applicants, lack of personnel, teacher shortages, ×2. Finding a particular individual needed, replacing existing teachers. And it's using LCRS funds to continue funding where you've lost it. Availability of qualified applicants. Finding someone with experience with temporary funding. Qualified applicants. Another teacher shortage. Temporary contract versus opportunity for permanent status. Qualified applicants. Okay, so we're definitely seeing themes here. We are taking this information down, and we'll talk more about this as we continue. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share, but I'll leave that poll open if you haven't had a chance to respond.
All right, so let's go into some other allowed expenditures that we can use with these LCRS funds. So we have increasing access to evidence-based literacy instruction through strategies, including but not limited to any of the following: providing bilingual reading specialists to support dual language acquisition and English language development or ELD programs, developing and implementing culturally responsive curriculum and instruction, providing professional development for educators and school leaders in literacy instruction and the use of data to identify and support struggling pupils, and providing professional development for educators and school leaders regarding the implementation of the English Language Arts English Language Development Framework and the use of data to support effective instruction. So, as you might guess, we have yet another poll for you. We would like to know, what activities do you plan spending your LCRS funds on? So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Julia, and also drop those choices in the chat again, just in case you didn't get them all.
Okay, looks like responses are coming in. And those options are providing bilingual reading specialists to support dual language acquisition and English language development programs. That's A. And then we have B is developing and implementing culturally responsive curriculum and instruction. C right now, which has the largest number, 28, providing professional development for educators and school leaders in literacy instruction and the use of data to identify struggling pupils, and providing professional development for educators and school leaders regarding implementation of English language arts / ELD framework and the use of data to support effective instruction. All right. So it looks like we've got a little bit of a slowdown here. So our largest group here is C, followed by D with 20, B 14, and A has 9. So I'll leave that open again. Looks like folks are still replying. And I will turn it back to Jen.
Thank you. So this is our last allowed expenditure that we're going to go over: establishing an evidence-based family literacy initiative, which may include, but is not limited to, the following: family literacy plans that identify literacy and biliteracy goals, benchmarks, and roles for all family members; family literacy home visiting programs, including but not limited to Promotora family literacy outreach specialists. LEAs may establish literacy and biliteracy home visits to engage families in how best to support their pupils and every family member in reaching their literacy goals. Additionally, extended day, summer, or weekend family institutes related to literacy and biliteracy. LEAs are encouraged to work with in-house expanded learning programs to establish literacy and biliteracy support programs and literacy enrichment programs during after-school, weekend, and summer hours. And public library family literacy partnerships, including but not limited to digital tools to support whole family literacy. And then this is our last poll that we have. Do you plan to use your LCRS funds for an evidence-based family literacy initiative? So Julia, one more time for us.
All right, here we go. And this is simply, as Jen said, a yes or no. And I'll just give it another few moments. I'm personally liking the way things are looking here. All right, looks like things have slowed down. So 74% reported yes, you do plan to use LCRS funds for an evidence-based family literacy initiative. And 25% said no. So thank you so much.
All right. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about everyone's favorite topic of reporting. So annual reports are going to be due no later than September 30th of each fiscal year. The first annual report will be due on September 30th of 2024. A final report is expected by spring of 2028 and no later than June 30th of 2028. We have a reporting template available on the LCRS webpage, and that is https://www.cde.ca.gov/pd/LCRS program.asp. The CDE is requiring annual reporting as a response to requests for detailed information in the legislative report to justify future funding opportunities and to confirm funding is being used appropriately and tracked at the local level. LEAs can anticipate reporting on the following metrics, but do be aware that this is subject to change. So we have funds spent on literacy coaches and reading specialists, information on school literacy plans and professional learning, including topics of events offered, roles and numbers of participants served, and funds spent for this purpose. Information on family literacy plans, outreach specialists, and events, including number of events and families served. Impact on student achievement using state and local assessments disaggregated by student subgroups, and successes and challenges. So as you begin spending your LCRS funds, we have a variety of supports lined up for you. Our biggest support is our county office lead for the LCRS ET grants, which, as I mentioned before, is a $27 million grant to develop and provide training for educators to become literacy coaches and reading and literacy specialists. LEAs with eligible sites should consider working with our identified lead, that is, again, the Sacramento County Office of Education, to take advantage of all the supports that they will provide for all of our allowable expenditures for this program. And we're super excited that we actually have our Sacramento County Office of Education staff here with us to share the ways in which they will support you with their project. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our Sacramento County Office of Education leads for the Project California Literacy Leadership, or Project CALL. I'll stop sharing my screen, and Becky, you can take it away.
Thanks, Jen. Well, hi, everybody, and thank you to the California Department of Education. And it's so wonderful to see all of you here today. So many familiar faces and names on the screen. I'm Becky Sullivan, and I'm going to be the project lead for the Literacy Coaches and Reading Specialists Educator Training Grant Program. And we are partnered with the Napa County Office of Education. And we are very excited to be sharing with you just a little bit of our 5-year plan for the Cohort 1 and Cohort 2 schools that are part of this really exciting project. So first, we're going to start by introducing our teams to you. On the SCOE team, we have Tammy Wilson, Ku Vang, Allison Rice, Deirdre Girardi, and Wynn Doe. And I'd like to introduce Lucy Edwards from the Napa County Office of Education.
Hi, everyone. So glad to see you. I'm Dr. Lucy Edwards from Napa County Office of Education. And as Becky said, Napa Co is the project co-lead for this grant. I'm joined today by Chrissy Cotton and Giselle Blanc, team members at Napa County Office of Ed. And unfortunately, Kara had another commitment, so she's not able to join us this afternoon. So we're going to take a look at the purpose of the LCRS grant. And again, as Cheryl Cotton, Julia, and Jen have already talked about, this grant is in support of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction's goal that all California students are reading by 3rd grade by 2026. So at the heart of this grant, we're going to develop and provide training for educators to become literacy coaches, and reading and literacy specialists and provide support for the LEAs that received the LCRS application. So we're very excited to get to work with all of you. We want to build the knowledge and skill sets and align the practices to better serve students across California. As was mentioned before, and I think we can forward the slide now, this is going to involve a community and some work across the next 5 years. But this is kind of a satellite view of the timeline of the opportunities and incentives that LCRS sites are entitled to over the lifetime of the grant. So cohort 1 schools over on the left-hand side, they received their funds in 22-23. Cohort 2 schools are going to be receiving their funding soon. And we are very excited to offer some spring professional learning series around the science of reading. Then that leads into some root cause analysis and some data analysis that goes into the development of a site literacy plan or the involvement of an existing site literacy plan if sites or LEAs already have those in place. Following up into next year, 24 and 25, the grant is partnering with CRLP, California Reading and Literature Project. We will have professional development opportunities for a whole host of people at the school site and even at the district. We'll have offerings around literacy leadership training series, which involves the site administrator, so important to this work. Or VPs or grant leads at the district office if those folks have those roles. We will also offer a literacy coaching expert training series designed for literacy coaches or lead teachers if your coaches aren't in place yet. We'll also have expert webinar series every other month for a variety of other educational partners too. We all will also receive support through a coach network and through the county office hubs who are serving as partners across California. Teams will be involved in plan, do, study, act cycles to assess on a regular basis what is working and what is not working and making improvements and adjustments along the way. So we're learning our way into improvement around literacy and moving the needle for students. And of course, last but certainly not least, work around the family and community engagement and involving all of our educational partners in this really important work of ensuring that more students are reading by the 3rd grade. The first year's topics will be around foundational literacy skills. Then that same kind of professional learning will be offered again in 25-26, but this time focusing on how English works, assessing and teaching part 2 of the ELD standards, and then moving into 26 and 27, the same types of professional learning offerings will be available to LCRS sites and teams, but this year taking a look at comprehension. And of course, we know that we want this work to be rooted, to become rooted in your systems, and sustainability does not happen without some intentionality. So the last year, 27 and 28, will be a lot of work around focusing on sustainability and how we can really get these practices rooted into our systems and organizations so that they will outlive the life of the grant. Along the way, before we go on, along the way, there's going to be a series of incentives. There will be opportunities for people to become credentialed or earn an added authorization for their literacy coach or reading specialist credentials. There will also be other professional learning opportunities provided by partners with the grant around letters, core, and then of course an exciting opportunity to engage in networks on the topic of literacy and implementation across our professional learning networks, and then a variety of conferences also offered the next couple of years. All of this does not happen without true partnership across the state. So you'll see here that we have the two co-leads on the map, but then we will be joined by a variety of other regional hubs across the state who will be providing not only professional learning to the grant participants, but then also technical assistance on a regular basis in different regions across the state. This work is going to take a village, but collaboratively and collectively together, we can certainly improve literacy outcomes for our students.
So we have divided up the state into regional hubs. There are 12 regional hubs, and just about all of them are here on this webinar today. And we have already set up support for you in terms of a Padlet. And we have emailed all 833 of the LCRS schools. We've just gotten a few bounce backs, so we're working on cleaning that up. So we'll be reaching out to you soon if you have not heard from us. But right here on the Padlet, and Wynn is going to drop that link in the chat, you can find your district and your county and who your support people are right here on the Padlet. And right after the winter break, you will be hearing from your regional support team. They'll be following up with similar information to what we reached out to you just this past week. And coming up, we are going to be having an orientation a little bit more in depth than what we're sharing with you today, because we also have cohort 1 that needs to join us. So coming up January 16th, 17th, or 18th, the session will repeat. We're going to be having an orientation to go more in depth over the 5-year plan, as well as the support details, what you'll be offered from us and from the regional hubs. We would like the grant leads, the LCRS principals, literacy coaches, reading specialists. If you have lead teachers in that role, if you want to bring teachers, everyone's invited. And the registration links for that are on our main grant Padlet, and that's here. And Wynn's going to drop that link in the chat. It's also in the email that we sent out. And the Padlet scrolls left and right. Registration information is right here. Here's that email that we sent out. And here is that orientation link. It takes you right to SCOE's professional learning page, professional learning registration page. And if you scroll all the way down, you can register here. And there is a code you need to put in, which is LCRSET. And you can choose which date you would like to attend. January 16th, 17th, or 18th. We would also like you to start to gather your site literacy team and join us for our professional learning series this spring. It's an 8-session series. Please choose a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. The sessions will repeat, but there are a lot of you out there, and so we are going to offer you lots of choices for coming. The sessions will run from 3:30 to 5. And we're going to get grounded in, get everybody on the same page in terms of how it is that children learn how to read. And we are also going to talk about conditions for literacy success and conditions for learning, root cause analysis with your own data, and do a needs assessment. And then we are going to help you put a literacy plan together, or help you revise your literacy plan, or help you just zhuzh up your literacy plan if you already have one. So between now and when the series begins, we'd like you to start putting that literacy team together. The grant leads, your site administrator, literacy coaches, reading specialists, and grade level representatives from whoever is going to be served by this grant, whether it be K1, K3, or if you're going to go K6. You can register for this also right back on the main grant Padlet. If you scroll down, here is that spring series. If you're going to come on the Tuesday, you'll click here, the Wednesday series or the Thursday series, and the dates are all available for you right there on the Padlet, also in the email, registration email that we sent out. Okay, so your next steps are assemble that team, get registered for orientation, and register for our spring series. Look for emails from us. They will come from lcrset@scoe.net. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for going through that. It's just, we're so excited to have you on board and just really looking forward to everyone being able to start this work together with you. Our friends at SCOE and NAPA have shared a lot of dates and a lot of upcoming opportunities with you. But we also wanted to remind you of some major dates here on the CDE side as well. So as we've mentioned before, you can expect your full apportionment by January of 2024. And then that first report is due all the way in September 30th of 2024. So just make sure that you keep those dates in mind. And then we've also shared a lot of different resources over the course of this presentation. And we've talked about a lot of different literacy grant programs and initiatives that might provide you some additional help as well. So we'll be sending out after the conclusion of this webinar, along with the slides and a link to the recording, also all of the links to all of these resources. So be on the lookout for that email. We would hope to have it to you within the next couple of weeks, depending on when our recording can get processed. So that brings us to the end of our official presentation here. And now we can go ahead and transfer over into our question and answer session. Please note that some of these questions may require additional research. So for those questions and others, we will go ahead and post those answers on the LCRS Frequently Asked Questions webpage. But if you want access to those questions earlier, you can go ahead and email us. So I am going to stop sharing for the moment, and let's see what sorts of questions have come in. Looks like we have had some questions in our Q&A that we've gone through and answered. This one was also stated in the chat, so I just wanted to really shout it out. Someone was asking what the registration code is to register for the January sessions, and it is LCRSET, all caps, right, Lucy and Becky? Yeah. So LCRSET. And then other questions that have popped up in our Q&A, one was asking if there is a specific title that coaches need. And for literacy coaches, there is no state CDE level definition for literacy coach, so that is locally defined. And then there have been other questions about whether or not coaches or specialists need a specific certification already, or can they work towards that through the grant? And as Becky and Lucy have talked about, there are going to be many opportunities for that over the course of this grant period. So we really hope that you'll sign up for those opportunities. And additionally, there was a question about what to do if the cost of a particular position exceeds the amount of funding that they have. So we provided a couple of different answers for that one. One is that you might choose to kind of augment or supplement that position with additional funds. One of the questions that we ask on our annual report is whether or not you are supporting LCRS work with other funds. So you'll have an opportunity to state that. But then Julia also added, which I thought was an excellent point, that Sacramento County Office of Education is going to have opportunities for LEAs to come together to discuss a lot of these challenges. You know, thinking back in our poll that we had earlier about the different barriers that people were facing in hiring coaches or reading specialists, you know, we saw a lot of similarities, right? So we'll have some communities of practice where you can chat about some of these things and maybe bounce ideas off of each other.
And folks are wondering about contact information as well. So we will download this chat. And if you've noted that perhaps you're new in your position or you want to make sure you're on our list, we'll do a double check of our contact list and make sure that we have the correct person there listed for both our LEA's superintendent and also for principals at the school site.
Can I add just as we're preparing for closing, I do want to encourage our schools or LEAs to go ahead and participate in the literacy landscape survey. That will give us some general information that we would like to gather for all LEAs across the state. But in particular, we definitely want these schools to participate in that literacy landscape survey. I can drop that in the chat in just a moment, and we can move forward with that.
I put a question in the chat and also in the question box about recommended curriculum, and I didn't know if you had a state list of knowledge-based curriculums that you were recommending that are culturally responsive, or is that a decision made locally?
There's a state board adopted list on CDE's website, and that's some work that we can do throughout the grant and at the hub level as well, especially when we go through the root cause and the needs assessment.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you. Would you mind putting that link to what you're referring to in the chat, if you wouldn't mind?
Sure.
Thank you.
And it looks like we have a question also about missing the link to register for the January sessions. Is someone from your guys' team, can you go ahead and drop that link in the chat again when you get a chance? And then it looks like Cheryl just put in the chat the link to the letter and the literacy survey that we have going on. So please do make sure to take both of those down so you can fill out that survey if you haven't yet already. It looks like we have a question from Maritza in the chat. For the series we are registering, do all the members of the team have to sign up for the same day? Becky and Lucy?
Yes, please. Lots of teamwork will happen. All the breakout rooms will be with the school site. You'll be with your own team in the breakout rooms.
And then Stephanie, I see that you have a question here in the Q&A about ending positions and then potentially rehiring them with LCRS funds. Let us go ahead and chat about that with our team here at the CDE, and we'll go ahead and send you an email with that answer. Thank you. Let me go ahead while you're sharing all of your great contact information. Let me share the screen again so we can share the CDE contact information. So inevitably more questions will arise, right? You're not thinking of them right now, but they'll suddenly occur to you in the middle of the night and you'll need to ask us. So when that happens, please do reach out to us. It's plio@cde.ca.gov. That's for all program questions. So things like allowed expenditures and things like that. And then if you have something related more to allocations or apportionments, as Julie shared earlier, we have an email for that as well. So that's caar@cde.ca.gov. And then let me see. Oh, yes. And then thank you, Wen, for adding that in the chat. You can contact the LCRS ET team at the Sacramento County Office of Education at lcrset@scoe.net. Thank you very much.
And Jen mentioned also that the first reporting will come early fall, and we will host a webinar for that as well prior to needing to submit that as well. So
yes. You can get a little bit of a sneak peek for that because we do have the recording posted for the first allocation for the technical assistance webinar for the reporting on our LCRS program webpage. And I can go ahead and drop that in the chat really fast for you. This is our main LCRS program webpage. It has a lot of great resources on it, including all of the allowable expenditures that we talked about today, links to the allocations and apportionments, information on the LCRS ET grants, and then resources for reporting as well. So you'll see the templates that I mentioned that we had earlier, a link to the reporting system as it stands, although you won't have login information yet for that second cohort. And then, as I mentioned, also a recording, and a link to the slides. So if you're super excited about the report coming up, it's September 30th, 2024, you can go ahead and get a sneak peek of the things that we will be asking you. And then, as I mentioned, we also have a frequently asked questions webpage on there that goes over a lot of questions that people have had over the course of the first cohorts. So, as more questions do occur to you, you might then take a look at our FAQ, because probably someone else has asked that as well. So you can take a peek and see if the FAQ answers your question. But if not, again, you can go ahead and give us an email at plio@cde.ca.gov.
Okay, it looks like we've got our special guest here. Turn it over to our Deputy Superintendent Cotton.
Thank you. Is the superintendent joining? Excellent, excellent. So I do want to introduce our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman. This is his vision and his dream. This is one way, and we know that research shows bringing students to reading, improving educators' skill set, their work around helping students learn to read really comes from coaching as well. We know how important coaching is. I'd like to introduce Superintendent Thurman. I see him there to talk about really where this is going and what type of support, one, that we are able to offer, but also what we need from our LEAs who are doing this work. Superintendent?
All right, and it looks like we have some more contact information in the chat. Great. Any other lingering questions while we wait to see if Superintendent Thurman's able to resolve his connectivity issues?
My wondering is again around curriculum, and I'm sure there's a process to get there, but I was wondering if or when we might expect that process to unfold and unravel with more updated options and opportunities that they currently have on the market.
Yeah, so we've had several different literacy grants that we've been implementing the last few years, and to your point, they are local decisions, and it's something that I think our partners at Sacramento County Office of Education have a lot to say about, and Napa County Office of Education. But I'm going to interrupt myself here. I see Superintendent Thurman, and I will mute myself and let him take it away. Welcome.
Hey, Julia. Good afternoon, everyone. If I could, I would pick up on your response to the question about curriculum. We are in the process of asking our legislature and governor to fund curricula and training, professional development that school districts can use to support every teacher who teaches children to read, especially those in our earliest grade spans. This will require legislative action, and we recognize that it's coming in a year when the legislature has already said that there'll be less revenue. But we think it's very important that teachers be given access to a proven curricula, a professional development that is proven to help those who help young people learn to read. And so we're actually pursuing that. We're not here to tell you what you have to use, as Julia was saying. Every community is unique and has its own needs, but we think it's important that districts be given access to the best professional development, and then the funding to make sure that school staff can get it, teachers, classified staff, coaches, specialists, and others. And so this is something that we're working on right now. We have a bill that's going to go across the desk in January, asking for the funding to support professional development for those who teach reading. And we hope that when that bill is ready, that you all will sign on in support of that bill. As you heard Cheryl Cotton say, this is a very important priority for our state. This grant might be amongst the most important of those being offered by our state. And to those of you who've received this second round of funding, congratulations. It is significant. The need is great. And we hope that you will use it, that you will steer it to meet the needs of your students, and that you will share with us your observations of the impacts of having these reading coaches and specialists. Everyone knows, it's well documented, having reading coaches and specialists is an important part of helping to raise the competency and the proficiency of young readers. It is not something that can do it by itself, but we think it is a very important part. It's why we've been advocating for it, along with the governor, the legislature, the state board president, Dr. Darlene Hammond. We like to ask two things of you. One, that you share your experiences, and that you tell us if you see an impact in many areas, including on how students perform on test scores. We don't think that test scores are everything, but they are one of the few measures that we have to let us know if our students are demonstrating the proficiency that they need to show around their ability to read, because we know that's a gateway skill. You learn to read, you read to learn. So we'd like for you to share with us over time how students' performance is impacted. So we want you to start preparing to measure that right now as you're getting the grant. The second thing we'd like to ask you to do is to share your data about how young readers are doing. And we recognize that there are no statewide indicators for this. So we want you to share a snapshot of how your young readers are doing using your local indicators. And so we're not going to specify what indicator you use, but we would love for you to tell us how to do so, how you have seen readers in the K-2 grade span are doing in their effort to become readers by third grade. Many of you know this is something that we have declared we're going to get done as a state to make sure that our students can learn to read by third grade by the year 2026. And so we want to hear from you. We're asking up front that you share a snapshot of how your young readers are doing. And our team will be sending you some things in writing to help you, prompt you to give us that information. But even now, as you're setting out on your strategy, we want you to be prepared to report back if you've seen an improvement in reading for older students as measured on test scores. There'll be some other metrics we'll ask you to think about, but this is what we want from you. One of our literacy directors, Bonnie Garcia, has just put something in the chat that will help you to answer that question for us. We're not looking for your data. We're not going to share your data. If it's good news, that's great, and we will help you to amplify that. If it's news that says that there are students in, say, the K-2 grade span who are not on track to learn to read by third grade, then we hope you find that data helpful for yourselves as to be able to make interventions, and that it gives us a baseline of where our students are statewide and where we might be able to find more statewide resources to help you. And so this is what we're interested in. I can't tell you the names. Actually, Bonnie and others might be able to tell you the names of the trainings that we think will get mentioned in the bill that I mentioned about professional development. I can tell you that one of them is letters. We've spent a lot of time thinking about letters and the science of reading, and heard from many of you about the impact that you're already seeing with letters training. So imagine that any district that wanted it would have the funding to provide professional development for your staff if you want them to be trained in letters. That's an example. And so please, someone's going to leave the Zoom and say, Tony Thurman said every district has to use letters. That is not the message that we are delivering here today. But letters is among the trainings that we've been looking at, and we've seen the results, not just in California, but across the nation. And we want you to have access to the best professional development that exists. And so expect to see that bill soon. We hope that you'll sign on. Sorry for my delay in getting on. It is a difficult day here and buckets of rain, and my computer is not working, but here I am on my phone talking with you, and excited to be talking with you and welcome you into the family of grantees who has received a Reading Coaches and Specialists grant. So thank you, welcome, and we're looking forward to working closely with you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Work is laid out ahead of us. Thank you to Jennifer, to Becky, to all who have joined us today. We know the work that we need to do, and I know that we are prepared to do it, and we'll do it together in collaboration. You are not alone in this effort. we are together. We have the funding, we have the resources. We're putting the coaches together. We're working with families. We're ready. And I am so excited for our next steps together. Jennifer, do you want to close?
Yes. Thank you all again so much for joining us today. Thank you for all your updated contact information, all your wonderful questions. Thank you to our LCRS ET County Office leads for sharing the wonderful opportunities that we have ahead of us. And I will be in touch with you all soon with slides and a link to the recording and all of the wonderful resources that we referenced today. Any other final words from our LCRS ET leads?
We are so excited to get started. Register, register, register. We can't wait to see you. And so many of your questions, we're going to be doing that with you. And we're going to get you trained up and going. And we're just excited for the work. So we'll see you in January.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. And a happy holiday. Talk to you all in the new year.
Stay dry, everyone. Take care.
Bye.